Good evening, and welcome back. Tonight, we'll spend a full day inside the Roman baths. You'll rise with the bathmaster at dawn, feel the heat of the hypocaust fires, hear the scrape of strigils on skin, and breathe in the steam that filled these ancient chambers. If you enjoy these long, quiet journeys through history, do consider giving this video a like, and perhaps let me know in the comments where in the world you're listening from tonight. And of course, if you'd like more of these bedtime histories, you're very welcome to subscribe. Now, close your eyes, settle back, and let us step softly into the Roman baths. You rise before the sun, as you always do. The air is chill when you step from your narrow bed, your breath misting faintly in the half-light. The stone beneath your bare feet is cool and rough. A reminder that warmth here is not a given, but a thing earned by tending fire and water. You pull your cloak about your shoulders and make your way towards the heart of the building, the great baths, which, though still silent now, will soon echo with voices, laughter, splashes, and the hum of daily ritual. The doors creak when you push them open. Inside, the baths breathe faintly in the gloom, as though the whole complex is itself a living beast waiting to wait. You know every chamber, every pipe and arch, every echo. Even now, before the fires are stoked, you smell it, the lingering tang of old steam clinging to the walls, the faint mineral sharpness from the spring that never sleeps, the earthy dampness of stone that has drunk centuries of heat and sweat. You pause in the apoditarium, the changing hall, its benches empty, its shelves bare for now. The silence is thick, broken only by the faint drip of water somewhere far away. You run your hand across the wooden bench, smooth from countless bodies, yet faintly sticky with the salt of dried sweat. Later, it will creak under the weight of merchants, soldiers, freedmen, boys eager to splash, and older men content to sit and talk of politics. For now, it waits. Your first task is fire. You descend to the hypocaust, that underworld of brick pillars and soot where the bath's true life lies. The air here bites your lungs. It stinks of ash and scorched earth. You crouch low, coaxing embers from last night's coals with dry kindling. The wood crackles, pops, and sighs as flames awaken, licking up and spreading warmth into the hollow spaces beneath the floors. Soon heat will rise through the stone like blood in veins, carrying life into the frigidarium, the tepidarium, and at last, the caldarium. You feed the fires carefully, listening to the hiss and roar as the draft pours smoke up through the flues. This is your craft, to balance air, wood, and flame until warmth flows evenly through every chamber. Emerging again, you wipe ash from your hands upon your cloak and inhale. Already, the faint change is there, the stone no longer icy, but beginning to hold warmth, like skin kissed by the sun. You pace through the tepidarium, the warm room, its vaulted ceiling catching the first threads of dawnlight. You hear the low hum of water stirring in the pipes, feel the stone floor slowly waking beneath your soles. In the caldarium, the hot chamber, the scent of steam is strongest. It clings to your nostrils, metallic and sharp, like the spring itself. You dip your hand into the pool, and though the water is still cooler than it will be, you taste its promise. It leaves a trace of iron and salt upon your tongue, a flavor both strange and comforting, as though the earth itself has steeped a tonic for the body. Later, men will sink into this water with sighs of pleasure, muscles easing, tongues loosening, and stories flowing. But for now, it is yours alone. Back in your small chamber, you break your fast. The bread is coarse but warm, baked yesterday, its crust flaking in your fingers. You chew slowly, savoring the earthy grain, chasing each mouthful with a sip of watered wine. The wine is thin, sour almost, but it carries a faint sweetness at the end, like overripe fruit. Together, they steady you, preparing you for the long day. You lean against the doorway as you eat, listening. The crackle of your fires below, the soft drip of condensation from the ceiling, the muted rush of the spring feeding the pools. These sounds are as much your companions as any man. When the first rays of the sun strike the high windows, you know it is time. Soon the first bathers will arrive, traders dusty from the forum, legionaries with the stiffness of night watch in their bones, children tugging at mothers' hands, eager for splash and mischief. They will come for the same reasons they always come, for warmth, for cleansing, for talk, for the sense of being part of a rhythm older than any of them. And you, as bathmaster, will greet them. You will watch the fires, listen to the stones, taste the water, and ensure that steam and ritual enfold them like a cloak. This place is not merely walls and pools. It is a sanctuary, a theatre, a daily ceremony in which you are both stagehand and priest. You finish the last of your bread, brush crumbs from your tunic, and breathe deeply. The smell of ash, stone, and rising steam fills your chest. Another day begins, and you are ready. The first knock of sandals on stone comes just as you predicted. The echo carries through the entrance, brisk and purposeful, and soon the door opens to let in the day's earliest bathers. A trio of merchants step inside, their tunics dusty from the forum, the tang of leather purses and coin clinging faintly to them. They nod curtly to you, not with the deference given to a magistrate, but with the respect due to the one who tends the fires, guards the waters, and ensures their ritual comfort. They step into the apoditeria, the changing hall, and already the air shifts. Empty benches that moments before seemed lifeless now creak under weight. The soft scrape of sandals on mosaic floors joins the chorus of drips and distant hisses. The men peel off their tunics, laughing quietly, their voices echoing off the high, painted ceiling. One complains of aching shoulders from hauling amphorae, another boasts of a bargain struck at dawn. Their conversation carries the faint ring of coin, for men often speak of money more freely when stripping bare. You breathe in deeply as you pass behind them. The room is filled with smells, sweat carried in from outside, sharp and acrid, the faint resinous scent of oil flasks being uncorked, the mustiness of tunics hung upon hooks. You run your fingers along one of the wooden benches, smooth from countless bodies, slightly sticky with lingering oil. A slave boy enters carrying a basket, and the earthy odour of fresh rushes follows him. He scatters them in corners, their green scent cutting through the thicker air. More men arrive. A pair of legionaries tramp in, the iron of their gear clinking faintly even though most weapons are left at the gate. Their hair smells of smoke from the watchfires, their skin of leather straps long worn. They greet the merchants with the rough camaraderie of soldiers, and soon all six are talking at once. Jests fly, shoulders are clapped, and you note with satisfaction how the empty chamber has become a theatre of voices. You guide them onwards, but not before reminding each to leave their belongings with the attendant. Theft is rare, few would dare cross you here, but the rule is firm. Their purses, sandals and tunics are tucked away, and they pass naked into the frigidarium, the cold room. The moment the door opens, a different world greets them. You hear the sudden intake of breath as cold air envelops bare skin. The sound of their feet on damp stone is sharper here, the echoes higher pitched. They mutter about the chill, but you know it is part of the ritual, to awaken the body before the slow march of warmth. You follow them in, letting the door close with a hollow thud behind you. The frigidarium smells sharper than the apoditarium. Mineral-rich water, lime in the plaster, faint mould at the corners. You crouch and dip your hand in the cold pool. The water bites like teeth at your skin. One of the merchants splashes his arms, gasping, then plunges in with a shiver. The others follow, their voices bouncing wildly off the high vaulted ceiling. The splash reverberates, mixing with their laughter, until the whole room seems to pulse with water and sound. You do not join them, not yet. The bathmaster rarely indulges before duty. Instead, you lean on a pillar, listening. The sound of splashing is mingled with sharp intakes of breath, teeth chattering, and the sudden exhale of lungs adjusting to cold. It is bracing, they say, and though many curse aloud when first submerged, they emerge with skin prickling and eyes brighter. The legionaries laugh loudest, boasting of winter campaigns when they waded through rivers colder still. When they leave the pool, dripping and invigorated, you guide them towards the tepetarium. As they pass, droplets fall from their bodies, hitting the stone floor with tiny slaps. The air grows warmer as you approach the next chamber, and already you hear the hiss of steam rising from pipes. But before you follow them through, you pause to take a sip from your own flask. The wine is thin, as ever, watered by habit, yet it tastes of sour cherries with a faint metallic note. You let it wash across your tongue, a reminder that taste, too, is sharpened by ritual. The tang lingers as you push open the door, ushering them into warm heart of the baths. The tepidarium greets you like an embrace, the air thick and moist, carrying the sweet tang of warmed oil and the mineral heaviness of steam. The men sigh as they enter, shoulders relaxing, voices dropping from loud banter to softer tones. Here, the heat seeps slowly, wrapping them, softening limbs, quieting the chatter of minds. You breathe deeply. The scent is of olive oil heated until nutty, mingled with the faint, sweet musk of men's bodies beginning to sweat. You nod, satisfied. The ritual has begun as it should. The cold shock, the warm embrace, the long road towards the Caldarium's furnace heat. Another day has truly begun, not for you alone, but for every man who steps within these walls, seeking cleansing, company, and the gentle drowning of his cares in water and steam. You step into the tepidarium with them, and at once the air presses against your skin like a damp cloak. The warmth is not oppressive, not yet, but it settles into your shoulders, loosening muscles, smoothing away the lingering chill from the frigidarium. The room hums with a low murmur, not only of men's voices, but of water seeping through pipes, of steam hissing faintly where it escapes through cracks in the plaster. The merchants sit upon the benches that run along the wall, their skin shining wet. Slaves follow them in, carrying little flasks of olive oil, the clay warm to the touch from resting near the hypocost's venting. When you unstopper one, the smell rises instantly, nutty, green, with a faint bitterness that reminds you of the grove from which it came. The merchants pour the oil into their palms, rubbing it across shoulders, down arms, over thighs. Their hands glisten as though gilded, every line of muscle given sheen by the film of oil. The legionaries are less delicate. One simply tips half the flask across his chest and rubs vigorously, grunting with satisfaction as the warmth spreads. Another calls for his companion to reach his back, and they laugh loudly, their rough camaraderie echoing up into the high dome. The sound is magnified strangely by the curved ceiling, every chuckle turning into a booming resonance that makes even their jokes sound grander than intended. You watch carefully. Your role is not merely to tend fires, but to ensure the rhythm of the ritual is kept. Oil is spread, not for vanity alone, but to soften the skin, to prepare it for the scraping that will follow. You move among them, offering a word here, a nod there, adjusting the angle of a strigil in one slave's hand. The curved bronze tools gleam faintly in the steam, their edges blunt enough not to cut, but sharp enough to scrape. One by one, the men hand their strigils to slaves or to one another. The scraping begins, long, deliberate strokes down arms, across shoulders, along backs. The sound is curious, a wet, slithering hiss as oil and sweat are drawn away, leaving the skin clean and pink beneath. Little rivulets run down to the floor, carrying away dirt, dust, and the fatigue of the outside world. The merchants sigh audibly, one even groaning in pleasure as tension seeps out with the grime. The smell of oil thickens as it is warmed by skin and steam. It mingles with the faint tang of iron from the strigils, and with something more human, the salty musk of men beginning to sweat freely. To your nose, trained by years of service, these scents are as telling as words. Too much oil, and the air clogs. Too little, and the scraping is harsh. Today, the balance is right. Conversation begins in earnest as the scraping goes on. The merchants mutter about grain prices, about the senator's son who wasted coin on foolish games, about rumors of a new tax. The legionaries speak of postings, of skirmishes in provinces far away, of officers who take credit for victories won by their men. Their words drift like smoke, curling in the warm air, carrying tales of politics, trade, and war. You hear them all, though you keep your face impassive. A bathmaster learns to listen without seeming to. Secrets flow as freely here as sweat and oil. One of the merchants calls for a drink, and a slave hurries in with a jug of mulsum, wine sweetened with honey. He pours into shallow cups, the golden liquid catching the torchlight. The smell rises, rich, floral, the honey masking the wine's sourness. You accept a cup too, though you sip sparingly. The taste is smooth, sweet at first, then sharp upon the tongue, leaving a lingering perfume in your throat. It steadies you, even as the warmth of the room already makes your temples damp. Around you, the tepidarium hums like a hive. More bathers arrive, a pair of youths laughing nervously, their voices high-pitched. An older senator with slaves in tow, his movements slower, more deliberate. The benches fill, the scraping continues, the smell of oil grows heavier. The air grows thicker too, each breath tasting of heat, resin, and faintly of copper from the bronze tools. You run your hand across the wall as you pass. The plaster is warm, almost slit with condensation. Droplets trickle down, merging, then falling with a soft patter to the floor. The stone beneath your feet is damp, gritty with the residue scraped from 100 bodies. You do not flinch, it is the very substance of your work. To tend the boss is to know the texture of sweat, the smell of oil, the hiss of steam. The ritual is well in motion now. The bodies are cleansed, their skins glowing, their minds softened by warmth and wine. Soon you will guide them onward, deeper into the caldarium, where heat becomes a force of its own, and steam fills the lungs with fire. But not yet. For now, you let them linger, scrape, sip, and murmur, a warm chamber echoing with a symphony of voices, metal strokes, and dripping water. You take another sip of mulsum, its honeyed sweetness clinging to your tongue, and breathe deep. This, you think, is the true beginning of the day. Not when the fires were lit, nor when the first sandals knocked upon stone, but here, where bodies are stripped bare, rubbed, scraped, and remade in warmth. You push open the heavy wooden door, and at once the air changes. A wave of heat rushes against your face, damp and full, like stepping into the lungs of some great beast. Steam coils through the room, silver in the torchlight, curling and twisting as though alive. The moment you breathe in, your chest fills with it. Thick, mineral-rich, tasting frankly of metal and salt. Your nostrils sting, and beads of sweat spring instantly to your brow. The merchants follow, hesitant at first, then surrendering to the enveloping warmth with sighs that echo across the stone chamber. The legionaries stride in boldly, boasting of hotter fires in campaign tents, though within minutes their foreheads drip. You smile quietly. The caldarium has a way of humbling even the proud. The chamber itself seems to breathe with the heat. The walls, plastered smooth and painted faintly with faded red and ochre, gleam with condensation. Droplets form at the curves of the ceiling and fall with soft plinks into the pool below. The floor beneath your feet is almost too hot to bear, warmed by the fires roaring in the hypocaust below. You flex your toes against the stone, feeling the pulsing warmth rising into your very bones. At the far end, the pole waits, steaming steadily, its surface trembling as droplets fall. You kneel, dipping your hand in. The water bites hot, sharper than the tepidarium, stinging your skin until it grows accustomed. When you lift your hand, a sheen of steam trails from it, leaving the scent of minerals clinging to your fingers. You lick a droplet from your palm, salty, metallic, almost medicinal, as though the earth has brewed its own cure in secret caverns. The bathers lower themselves in with grunts and gasps. One merchant mutters that he feels boiled alive. Another leans back with a groan of pure bliss. The legionaries plunge without hesitation, their great splashes sending hot waves slapping against the sides. They roar with laughter, though within minutes their bravado give way to silence, as the heat works deeper into flesh and sinew. You take your seat upon the stone bench that runs along the wall. It is slick with condensation, warm against your skin, like sitting upon sun-baked rock just after rain. From here, you watch the ritual unfold. The men sweat freely, rivulets tracing down their chests, their faces flushed red. Some breathe deeply, eyes closed, as though in prayer. Others whisper, voices low, conspiratorial, the steam wrapping their words and carrying them away. The smells here are heavy, dense. The olive oil lingers, now turned nutty, as it warms upon skin. Sweat carries a sharper tang, mingling with the mineral note of the water, until the whole room smells of earth and body combined. Every breath is thick, every exhale clouded. The sound of it all is like rain in a cavern, drops falling, water slapping, sighs mingling with the faint hiss of steam escaping cracks. You know the rhythm by heart. 10 minutes for some, 20 for the hardy. Too long and the body weakens. Too short and the cleansing is incomplete. You move between them quietly, offering encouragement, fetching ladles of cool water from a basin near the door. The men pour it over their heads, gasping as it splashes down hot skin, steam rising in sudden billows. The contrast sharpens their senses, and for a moment, their laughter returns, bouncing off the high ceiling. A slave enters with a tray of figs and bread. The fruit's sweet perfume cuts through the heavy air, and when you bite one, the flesh bursts soft and honeyed, its seeds crunching faintly between your teeth. The bread, though coarse, tastes richer here, its crust saltier, its crumb tangier, as if heat and sweat make every flavor more vivid. You chew slowly, savoring the mingling of sweet fig and sour grain, and sip again from watered wine. The drink is thin, yet in this heat it feels divine, its coolness slipping across your tongue, carrying away the dryness of steam. The senator, older and more cautious, reclines against the side of the pool, his eyes half closed. He murmurs to his slaves, who fan him with cloths, though the fans only stir the heat. You watch him carefully. Men of his age sometimes falter here, but he breathes steadily, and you nod. The baths are not only cleansing, but testing. Those who endure leave renewed. Minutes stretch, softened by steam. Time itself seems to dissolve in this chamber. Hours measured not by sun or shadow, but by sweat upon skin and sighs upon lips. You, as bathmaster, are both participant and overseer, tasting the air, listening to the breath of the room, feeling the heat in your bones. When the merchants at last emerge, dripping and ruddy, their laughter is softer, their eyes glazed with calm. They stagger slightly, as though unburdened of weight. The legionaries follow, quieter than before, muscles gleaming like bronze statues in the torchlight. All move slowly now, as if the caldarium has melted not only their grime but their haste. You lead them out, opening the door to the tepidarium once more. The cooler air rushes in like a blessing, and they sigh audibly. Behind you, the caldarium breathes on, a furnace heart that will throb until nightfall, feeding its steam into body after body, cleansing and binding the city together in ritual. You guide them through the archway, away from the steam-heavy air of the caldarium, into the palestra. At once, the atmosphere changes. The open sky greets you, pale and washed with midday light, and the crisp air feels like a draught of cool water after the furnace within. The men breathe deeply, shoulders rising and falling, as though their lungs had been freed. The yard is paved with pale stone, worn smooth by countless feet, its edges aligned with colonnades, their shadows stretching across the ground. Beneath them, more bathers gather, some lounging idly, others stretching limbs still heavy with heat. A handful of young men wrestle at the center, bodies gleaming with oil, their laughter sharp as they grapple, trip, and fall with satisfying thuds against the sand. The smell here is different, less mineral, more human. Sweat heavy on the air, mingled with dust kicked up by sandals, and the faint tang of olive oil spilt from careless flasks. You know the rhythm. The hot caldarium purges, the palestra reawakens. Some men toss a heavy ball back and forth, their hands slapping it with hollow thumps that echo between the columns. Others run short sprints, their sandals slapping. their breaths sharp and fast. Their exertions are not about strength alone, but about balance. The body, scored clean by heat, tested again in movement. You move among them, offering words of caution or encouragement. One merchant, emboldened by wine and sweat, insists on a bout of wrestling with a legionary. You watch with faint amusement as he is promptly flipped onto his back, the breath knocked clean from his lungs. The laughter that follows is hearty, roaring, a sound as essential to the baths as the hiss of steam. At the colonnade's edge, trays of snacks are set out by slaves, bowls of olives glistening dark, their brine sharp upon the tongue, small loaves of bread sprinkled with salt, their crusts still warm from the oven, dates sticky with syrup, sweet enough to cling to teeth. You pluck one, biting into its soft flesh. The sweetness is cloying at first, then mellow, leaving your fingers tacky. You lick them clean, tasting both fruit and the salt of your own sweat. Around you, men chew noisily, voices rising as food restores what heat had sapped. Wine is poured again, this time cooler, mixed with water from the spring. The jug sweats in the sun, droplets running down its clay sides. You take a sip, the taste faintly metallic from the mineral water, but refreshing nonetheless. Across the yard, a group of youths toast one another with exaggerated seriousness, spilling more than they swallow. Their laughter drifts skyward, mingling with the cries of gulls circling overhead. Conversation thickens here. Freed from the hush of steam and the scrutiny of senators, men talk more freely. You hear news of the games in the amphitheater, rumors of a magistrate's corruption, speculation about the next harvest. Voices overlap, spilling across the yard, like water across stone. You listen without comment. Your ears are always open, your tongue restrained. A bathmaster must know the city's pulse, even if he never speaks of it. When the exertion wanes and the snacks are gone, the men return to the strigils. Slaves scrape oil, dust and sweat from their skin, in long, deliberate strokes. The sound is again that familiar hiss, wet and intimate, like cloth sliding across glass. Little clumps of dirt and oil fall to the floor, swept quickly away by attendants, so the yard does not reek of men's cast-offs. You take a strigil yourself, running it down your forearm. The edge is cool, the scrape oddly satisfying, leaving your skin tingling, free of the harminess that clings after heat and exercise. The sun shifts higher, casting harsher light across the yard. Shadows grow shorter, and the marble columns gleam bright. A breeze carries the scent of baked bread from a nearby stool beyond the bath walls, mingling with the heavier odors of sweat and oil. Your stomach growls, and you answer it with another olive, biting into its sharp brine, sucking the salt from your fingertips. By now, the bathers are glowing, skin red from heat, polished by oil, scraped clean. Their movements are slower, their voices quieter. They have been purged, strained, and restored. Some recline beneath the colonnade, eyelids drooping, murmuring drowsy fragments of stories. Others wander back towards the tepidarium, drawn once more to the warm, enveloping air, eager to slip into conversation rather than exertion. You rise, brushing crumbs from your lap, and follow them. The paliestra empties gradually, like a tide ebbing, leaving only the faint smells of oil, dust, and olives behind. You glance back once, before stepping inside. The yard lies drowsy under the noon sun, a space that will echo with new voices in an hour, when another wave of bathers comes. But for now, it rests, as do you, within the rhythm of the baths. Inside, the tepidarium's warmth greets you again, its air thick and fragrant. The men settle onto benches, sipping more wine, whispering gossip, waiting for the next descent into water. You and Steve are exhausted by your scent OTAP and conquered by your layered and concrete slave might. PD Kelly, Var Sanger Reiji. The day has tipped towards its heart, and the baths pulse steadily with life. By noon, the baths are no longer yours. They belong to the city, every voice, every splash, every footfall, merging into a great, unbroken whole. You feel it the moment you step back into the apoditerium. The benches are full, tunics piled high, slaves weaving between bodies with arms loaded with flasks and towels. The smell is overwhelming, Oil and sweat, yes, but also perfumes from the wealthier patrons. Myrrh, sharp and resinous, rose oil cloyingly sweet, even a faint whiff of cinnamon clinging to a senator's cloak. The mingled scents hang heavy, as layered and complex as a market at high summer. The noise is immense, multiplied by the vaulted ceiling until it sounds like 100 men speaking at once. You breathe it in, this chaos. For you, it is the sign of success. A bathhouse without noise is a tomb. You walk through bars, giving short instructions, nodding to attendants, ensuring the rhythm does not falter. Strigils flash in the hands of slaves, scraping oil from shoulders with that wet, slithering hiss. Pots of fresh oil are passed around, their clay sides slick with condensation. You catch the nutty green scent each time one is uncorked. A senator sits at the center of the room, reclining as his personal slaves tend him, his voice low but commanding, every ear straining to catch fragments of his gossip. When you step into the tepidarium, the sound grows softer but no less busy. Men recline on benches, some sipping watered wine, others murmuring in clusters. One slave boy stumbles with a tray of bread, the loaves scattering across the damp floor. The smell of wheat rises at once, earthy, comforting, and another slave is quick to gather them, brushing off grit before handing them out again. You take one yourself, breaking the crust with your fingers. It is coarse but warm, and when you chew, it fills your mouth with a nutty sweetness, grounded by the faint salt on its surface. You wash it down with a sip of wine, its thin sharpness cleansing your palate. The frigidarium, by contrast, is wild. Youth dives into the cold pool, splashing until the very walls ring with their laughter. The water smells clean here, almost metallic, and each splash sends a spray of droplets cool upon your skin. You let it bead and slide down your arm before drying with the edge of your cloak. The coldarium roars like a furnace, louder even than earlier. Steam clouds so thick you can barely see across the chamber. The sounds are muffled, groans of pleasure, low conversation, the slap of water, as though you are underwater yourself. The heat is oppressive now, clinging like a wet cloak. Your skin prickles, sweat pours freely from every pore, and when you breathe, it feels as though fire fills your lungs. You know the men endure it for the purge it brings, for the way they emerge shining, clean, their cares sweated out of them. Still, you keep a watchful eye. The old and the frail can falter in such heat, and your duty is to balance indulgence with safety. At the palestra, the noise is greater still. Dozens of bodies moving at once, some wrestling, some tossing the heavy ball, some simply lounging, eating olives or figs. The smell of brine from the olives is strong here, sharp enough to cut through the heavier musk of sweat. You pluck one from a tray, biting into its flesh. It bursts salty and bitter, making your lips pucker before the flavor mellows. You chew slowly, enjoying the way the taste lingers, earthy and brackish at once. Everywhere you go, the baths thrum with life. Voices layer upon voices, senators debating politics, merchants bargaining, soldiers telling half-truths about campaigns. It is not a cacophony, but a symphony, each note part of the whole. You know this sound intimately. It is the sound of a city cleansing itself, unburdening, renewing. You pause in the doorway of the tepidarium, surveying it all. Steam curls up towards the painted ceiling. Lamps flicker. Men laugh. Slaves scurry. The smell of oil and wine, sweat and bread, fruit and damp stone all mingle until you cannot tell where one ends and another begins. The air tastes alive. You breathe deeply, filling your chest with it. This is midday in the baths. No longer ritual alone, but spectacle. The great house of water and steam holds the pulse of the city within its walls, and you, as bathmaster, keep that pulse steady. The tide of bathers ebbs, as it always does. By early afternoon, the great roar of midday softens, leaving the chambers half full, their echoes quieter, their steam gentler. The loud and young have gone. The merchants have returned to their stalls in the forum, skins scrubbed pink and tempers cooled. What remains is a slower rhythm. Older men reclining in corners, a senator with his entourage, a handful of legionaries stretching out their leisure before the watch. You sense the change at once. Where earlier the appetitorium rang with laughter and clatter, now it hums with softer sounds. Sandals padding lightly on stone, low conversation, the occasional splash of oil poured from a flask. The smell here is less chaotic too. The sharp perfumes of the wealthy have faded, leaving the steadier sense of olive oil, damp plaster, and faintly sour wine. You take in the calmer air and feel your shoulders ease. The senator still reclines in the tepidarium, his slaves attending closely. They fan him with cloths, though the air is already warm enough, and one kneels with a jug of Molson. The sweetened wine pours golden into a shallow cup, releasing its fragrance into the moist air, honey-rich, almost floral. The senator sips with slow deliberation, then gestures to his circle of listeners, launching into a tale of Senate debates. His voice is low, but carries. The acoustics of the vaulted chamber seem designed to make even a murmur sound significant. His words drift through the warmth like incense smoke. You linger near, not to intrude but to listen. A bathmaster hears many things, plans, grievances, whispers of rebellion, and must carry them silently. Today the talk is of taxes and harvests, of alliances and betrayals, of which magistrate can be bought and which cannot. You keep your face carefully blank, though inside you file away every detail. The baths are as much a senate of the people as the curia itself. A slave boy passes with a tray of dates and almonds. You take one of each. The date is sticky, syrup clinging to your fingers. You bite into it and feel its flesh burst soft and sweet, almost cloying in its richness. The almond, by contrast, is dry, its crunch cutting through the syrup like a blade. Together, they balance, sweet and bitter, soft and hard. You chew slowly, licking your fingers, savoring the simple pleasure. Around you, others do the same, their mouths busy while their voices remain free for gossip. The caldarium, though still hot, is less crowded now. You step inside and are enveloped in steam, though it hangs thinner than before. Only a few men linger, their faces flushed, their bodies glistening, reclining as if the heat itself holds them in its grip. The air smells of salt and iron, of stones sweated through. Droplets fall steadily from the ceiling, plink, plink, plink into the pool. The sound is almost meditative. You sit on the warm bench, running your hand along the slick surface, feeling its heat seep into your palm. A legionary near you sighs deeply, eyes closed, head tilted back, as though surrendering himself entirely to the room. When you step back out, the frigidarium shocks you with its sudden cold. The water lies still now, disturbed only by the occasional ripple of a lone bather braving its bite. You dip your hand in, the chill numbing your skin instantly, and bring it to your lips. The taste is fresh, metallic, like spring water drawn from deep stone. You savor it, letting the coolness cut through the thickness of wine and steam that has lingered on your tongue. The palastra too is quieter, though a few still linger, tossing the heavy ball back and forth with tired arms. Their laughter is subdued, their bodies slower. A pair of young men wrestle lazily in the sand, more for show than for victory. The air smells faintly of dust and oil, a lighter perfume than at midday. You walk slowly along the colonnade, watching the way sunlight slants across the paving stones, shadows of the columns falling long and straight. It is in this lull that the bards feel most like a sanctuary. Not the frenzy of midday, nor the silence of dawn, but something in between, a drowsy heartbeat, steady and calm. Men recline, sipping slowly, voices lowered to whispers. Steam curls lazily from doorways, no longer rushing, but drifting. You breathe in and feel it coat your throat, warm and heavy, leaving a faint taste of earth and salt. You lean against a pillar, closing your eyes for a moment, and listen. The baths sing still, though softer. The scrape of a strigil, the murmur of voices, the faint splash of water. The sound is like a lullaby, steady, unbroken, endless. This, you think, is the true art of the baths, not merely heat and water, but rhythm. A day carried from frenzy to stillness, from sweat to calm, from chaos to order. The senator shifts on his bench, his slaves moving like shadows to adjust his cushions. His voice continues, weaving politics into very steam of the tepidarium. You open your eyes, straighten your cloak, and move on. There is still much to oversee, and the day has hours yet before the fires are quenched. By the time the sun lowers towards the horizon, the baths stir once more. The afternoon lull breaks, and the evening wave arrives. Labourers from the workshops, travellers dusty from the road, freedmen whose coin stretches just far enough for this daily indulgence. Their steps are heavier, their voices deeper, their bodies carrying the day's grind like armour. You hear them before you see them. The tramp of sandals, the murmur of weary conversation, the bark of laughter from men glad to be done with toil. They file into the apoditarium in clusters, filling it quickly with noise and smell. The sharp tang of sweat mingles with dust, with smoke from blacksmiths' forges, with the fishy odour clinging to sailors just come from the docks. The chamber feels thick with it, and when you breathe in, you taste iron, salt, and earth. Tunics are shed quickly, piled high, and the benches groan under the weight of tired men. The scraping of strigils begins at once, slaves working briskly to strip away grime. The sound is harsher now, rougher strokes dragging filth from backs and arms, plumps of dirt falling like dark crumbs to the floor. The smell of olive oil rises, sharper than earlier, its green tang cutting into the odour of sweat and dust. You walk among them, ensuring each receives his portion, each flask refilled, each scrape thorough. The frigidarium is busier now than at midday. Men plunge in noisily, shouting at the cold, splashing one another with boyish glee despite their years. The water smells cleaner at this hour, refreshed by the constant flow of the spring, its metallic tang sharper against the fatigue of their bodies. You dip your hand in and taste it, cool, mineral, biting, and feel it cut through the heaviness of wine still on your tongue. In the tepidarium, the atmosphere is different from earlier. There is less politics, less gossip, more sighs of relief, more quiet exchanges. Women lean back against the benches, eyes half shut, allowing the warmth to soak into their bones. Their voices are low, sometimes breaking into tired laughter, sometimes fading into silence altogether. You walk past slowly, the heat and the smell wrapping around you. Oil, sweat, damp plaster, and faint honeyed wine. The caldarium, however, is still a furnace. The evening crowd enters boldly, their laughter loud, but within minutes, the heat drives them to silence. Steam curls thick, blurring outlines, making bodies into moving shadows. Sweat pours down faces and chests, dripping onto the hot stone with little hisses. The air tastes briny, metallic, like blood in the mouth. You breathe deeply and let it burn through your lungs, steady and familiar. The palestra is less a place of sport now and more of rest. A few still toss the heavy ball, though half-heartedly, their throws slower, their laughter more weary. Most lounge beneath the colonnades, eating what little food remains on the trays, olives shriveled and salty, bread gone hard, but still edible, figs sticky and overripe. You pluck an olive yourself, rolling it on your tongue before biting down. Its flesh bursts, sharp and brackish, its pit rough against your teeth. You chew slowly, savouring the salt, feeling it mingle with the sweat already on your lips. Wine is poured again, though thinner now, stretched further with water. It tastes faintly sour, but the men drink eagerly, washing down bread and fruit, letting the cool liquid soothe throats dry from heat. You take a sip yourself, metallic, sharp, almost bitter, but refreshing still. A last draught before the night begins. The voices here are rougher, deeper, carrying tales of labour rather than politics. A cart that broke an axle, a ship delayed by storm, a neighbour who cheated in a bargain. Their stories are earthier, their laughter louder, their tempers quicker. You listen all the same, nodding when addressed, moving on when quarrels spark. The baths are for all, not only senators and merchants. And you, as master, must hold both dignity and labour within these walls. we have unfolding power. As the sun dips lower, the torches are lit. Their resinous smoke fills the colonnades, sharp and pungent, mingling with the heavier smells of men and water. The flames flicker against the painted walls, turning steam into drifting gold. The baths gleam, alive still, though the day wanes. You pause in the doorway of the tepidarium and breathe in. The warmth, the smell, the sound, all of it presses close, intimate and heavy. This is the last wave, the final great breath of the day. Soon they will depart, the doors will close and silence will return. But for now, the baths live still, full of tired men washing away the day, drinking, laughing, sighing into the steam. You stand quietly, watching, listening, tasting the air. Evening has come, and with it the last surge of life before nightfall. The last voices fade slowly, as if reluctant to leave the stone womb of warmth and water. One by one, the evening bathers rise from benches, pulling tunics over damp shoulders, fastening sandals with weary hands. Their laughter dwindles to murmurs, their steps echo faintly in the upper data room. They go out into the night, cleaner, lighter, softened by steam, leaving you, once more, with the vast building itself. The apodidarium now smells of damp linen and stale sweat, layered over by the sharper tang of oil. The benches are slick where men sat, marked with smears of dirt and drops of wine. You run your hand along the wood, sticky in patches, smooth in others, a record of all the bodies that passed through today. Slaves hurry to sweep the floor, gathering clumps of dust and oil scrapings into baskets, their brushes whispering over the stone. You step into the tepidarium, and the hush deepens. The warmth lingers, but without bodies the chamber feels cavernous, almost too large. Droplets fall steadily from the ceiling into the shallow pools with plip, plip, plip. The air tastes faintly metallic, the steam thinner now. You run a finger across the bench, damp, cool, grainy with grit. You wipe it on your cloak and move on. The caldarium breathes like a dying furnace. The heat is still there, heavy and oppressive, but the fire below has begun to slacken. Steam curls thinly, no longer in clouds, but in drifting ribbons. The pool glows faintly in the torchlight, its surface trembling as droplets fall. You crouch, dipping your hand once more. The water is still hot, still bubbling, but its edge has dulled. You taste it on your fingers, salty, mineral, faintly bitter. The taste of a long day's work, clinging even as the fires cool. In the frigidarium, the water lies still, a black mirror in the torchlight. The smell is sharp, clean, almost medicinal after the thickness of the hot rooms. You listen, only the faintest trickle of spring water feeding the pool. No laughter, no splashing, only silence, broken by your own breathing. You savor it. At the palastra, shadows stretch long beneath the colonnades. The sand is scuffed from wrestling, footprints crisscrossing like tangled paths. A slave sweeps slowly, his broom rasping over the grit, raising a faint dust that smells dry and earthy. A tray of scraps lies forgotten on a bench, olives shriveled, bread hardened to rot, a fig split open and buzzing faintly with flies. You pluck the fig, brushing the insects away, and bite into it. Its flesh is soft, almost fermented, sweet but edged with sourness. You chew thoughtfully, tasting the residue of the day itself. The torches burn lower now. Their smoke drifts thick and acrid, stinging your nostrils, coating your tongue with bitterness. Yet beneath it, the bard's more familiar smells remain. Olive oil, sweat, damp stone, minerals. A perfume that belongs to no man but to the building itself. You breathe deeply, letting it fill you one last time. The slaves move quietly around you, each knowing his task. One gathers towels, wringing them out with practiced motions, the water slapping onto stone. Another empties basins, the splash echoing as it spills into drains. Down in the hypocaust, the fires hiss as damp wood is thrown on to smother the flames, smoke billowing upwards in lazy plumes. You hear the crackle soften, the roar fade, until only the faint whisper of embers remains. You make your final rounds, your sandals slapping softly on the wet stone. Each chamber you pass through is quieter, colder, more still. The bards are closing their eyes, and you are the one drawing down their lids. You pause in the tepidarium doorway, looking back. Steam still lingers, curling in golden torchlight. The benches are empty, the calls calm. Yet the room hums faintly, as though the very walls remember the voices, the laughter, the sighs. You sip from your flask, the last of the watered wine flat on your tongue. Sour, metallic, almost vinegary now. It doesn't matter. You swallow, wipe your mouth with the back of your hand, and feel the day settle into your bones. The doors will be barred soon. The city outside is quieting, the streets dim. But here, within these walls, the memory of voices still clings like the last coils of steam. You smile faintly. Another day is nearly done. The final door thuds closed behind the last of the slaves, its iron bar sliding into place with a heavy scrape. The sound echoes through the apoditarium, a closing note that marks the end of the day. You stand for a moment in the hush, listening. No voices, no splashing, no laughter. Only the faint hiss of cooling stone and the drip of water somewhere in the dark. The baths breathe differently at night. Without the weight of bodies, the chambers seem cavernous, their echoes hollow, their air colder. You walk the length of the tepidarium one last time, your footsteps slapping softly on the damp floor. The torches are guttering, their resinous smoke acrid and bitter, scratching at your throat. You cough lightly, then spit, the taste of ash and brine lingering on your tongue. The caldarium is dim, its fire dead, but its heat not gone. The walls sweat faintly still, beads of condensation trickling down like tears. You run your hand along the plaster, warm yet fading, slick beneath your palm. The pool below steams gently in the darkness, whispering with the sound of droplets falling from the ceiling. You bend, cupping a little in your hands. It tastes sharp, metallic, salted, the very flavour of Earth's veins. You let it sit on your tongue a moment before swallowing. The final draught of the day's furnace. The frigidarium is black and still. The pool reflects the faint light of your torch like a sheet of obsidian. You crouch and touch the surface with your fingertips. Cold bites instantly. A shock after the warmth of the caldarium. You lift your hand and watch droplets trail down your wrist, leaving your skin cool, clean, and faintly tingling. The smell here is clean too, mineral and sharp, as though the night itself had crept into the water. The palaestra lies abandoned, its sand smoothed by the broom, its colonnades dark. You walk slowly along the edge, feeling the grit cling to your sandals, hearing the faint rasp of your own breath. The smell of dust and oil lingers, mingling with the sweetness of figs long since cleared away. You close your eyes and imagine the laughter that filled it hours ago. Shouts, the thud of bodies wrestling, the slap of boar against hands. Now only silence remains. You climb back to the hypocist, stooping under its low arches. The fires are out, the air heavy with the sour smell of smoke and damp ash. You crouch, brushing your fingers through the cooling embers. They crumble to grey powder, leaving your skin smudged and blackened. You wipe them on your tunic, then rise, the warmth fading from your soles as you step away. The heart of the baths has stopped beating until dawn. At last you return to your chamber. The torch is dim, its flame wavering weakly. You sit upon the low bench and tear a piece from the last loaf of bread. The crust is hard now, the crumb dry, but hunger makes it welcome. You chew slowly, its nutty flavour muted, its rough texture scratching your tongue. You wash it down with the dregs of wine from your flask, sour, vinegared, but still wet. The taste clings sharp at the back of your throat, mingling with the smoke in your breath. You lean back, closing your eyes. The smells of the day linger around you. Olive oil, sweat, dust, figs, torches, stone, steam. They cling to your hair, your skin, your cloak. You breathe them in, each scent a memory of voices, laughter, sighs. The sounds remain too. The scrape of strudgels, the plink of droplets, the roar of the Caldari, the hush of the Tepetari. They echo in your ears, even as the baths lie silent. Your body aches pleasantly, tired from walking, from tending, from listening. You stretch out upon your narrow bed, the straw rustling beneath you. It smells faintly of hay and smoke, familiar, grounding. You pull your cloak over yourself, the rough wool scratching against your chin. You close your eyes. For a moment, you still hear the baths, the hiss of steam, the murmur of voices, but they fade quickly, replaced by the slow rhythm of your own breathing. Your muscles loosen, your chest rises and falls, your mind drifts. And there, in the quiet, with stone walls around you and the day's labor behind you, you let yourself slip into sleep. And so, the fires are damped, the doors are barred, and the voices have faded. The bards lie quiet now, their steam drifting away into silence. I hope this journey has brought you some peace and perhaps helped you drift towards sleep. If you'd like to return again for another evening in history, do remember to subscribe so you won't miss the next journey. Thank you for listening, and until next time, good night.